Welcome back to the channel. My name is Emory. This channel is dedicated to helping you get better at backpacking. So if you're into that kind of thing, consider sticking around and subscribing. Today, I want to talk about the 5 times I was completely wrong about backpacking, because I think it's really important to pass along lessons learned to those that are just starting out. And speaking of just starting out, I have a beginner backpacker course. It's called Learn How to Backpack. There are links in the description to that, as well as my website and my podcast, so be sure to check those out. Okay, let's talk about the 5 times I was completely wrong about backpacking. And starting with number 1, I thought backpackers had to cover a specific amount of miles each trip or each day to be considered a backpacker. And I was completely wrong about that. I don't know why I had it in my head that backpacking had a minimum mile requirement, but it was in my head. And if I did 1 mile or 3 miles or 10 miles, I didn't really know what I was aiming for, but I just knew that I wasn't doing enough miles. What that did was kind of put a seed of doubt in my mind about what I was doing out there and if I was real or not. And I realized years later that backpacking is whatever you make it. At this point in my life and in my backpacking journey, backpacking means putting your stuff in a backpack, hiking, spending a night in the woods or the mountains or the desert or wherever you're at, and hiking back the next day. I don't care if you go a mile, a half a mile, or 100 miles. It doesn't really matter as long as you're out there enjoying yourself, putting your belongings in your bag, hiking, camping, and coming back out. It's all that matters. So if you think that there's a minimum mile requirement for backpackers, if someone's telling you that, they're wrong and they're really uninformed. Another time that I was completely wrong about backpacking is when I was going into my 2017 thru hike of the PCT. And I remember going into that hike thinking, I have this backpacking thing nailed down. I know what I'm doing. I know what this is and what that is. And yes, I did know some things about backpacking and I was pretty okay at backpacking, but I had a lot to learn. And what I did was I put my own self on a pedestal of knowledge. I thought that I knew everything there was to know. And the PCT beat that out of me really quickly. I quickly learned that I was not very efficient with backpacking. And thru hiking teaches you how to be efficient and kind of just strips everything away. And what that basically told me was that you're never done learning. You're never going to know everything. So this one's kind of like a big ball of wax of I thought I knew how to backpack. I thought I knew everything that I needed to know, when in reality, I knew what I knew. And I'm always trying to learn. Even now, after hiking the PCT and every subsequent trip after that, I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to get better. And there's always things that I change. I'll never know everything about backpacking. And that has taken the pressure off. So if I go backpacking with this person or that person, regardless of their experience level, I'm always looking to see what they're doing to see if I can add it to my repertoire or my kit of knowledge, if you will. If you fall into that category of thinking that you're going to learn everything possible about backpacking and just be perfect, just let it go. Always be willing to learn. Okay, number 3. I personally got into backpacking because of hunting. I was tired of hunting near roads and I wanted to get further into the backcountry. And I thought at the time there was no reason to go backpacking or hiking unless it was hunting related. I thought it was boring to just go for a hike, and because I didn't have anything active to do with my mind or keep my attention. That's just where I was at the time. Fast forward after like a couple of years of backpacking for hunting purposes, I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail and I clearly was not hunting. And ever since, I've found that there's a lot of joy in different kinds of backpacking. I was wrong that my enjoyment in backpacking would only be catered to this one niche thing. Now, after all my experiences, my aperture just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. There are things that I'm now interested in that I was never interested in previously. So my advice here is to keep an open mind with all things backpacking. Maybe right now you're like, I would never want to hike more than 10 miles in a day, or I would never consider hiking in the desert. I would never consider backpacking here, there, wherever. Keep an open mind, because as you progress in your backpacking journey, you're gonna run into new scenarios. And every time you do something new, it just adds to your knowledge base and it opens up awesome opportunities. You meet really amazing people. I think back now, if I had only continued backpacking for the sake of hunting, I would have never learned how to be really, really efficient with my body, my gear, and my mental state. So yeah, I was wrong that backpacking for me was one-dimensional. Open up your aperture, be open to different types of backpacking. I think you'll be better for it. All right, number 4. I thought going into my PCT hike that the entire goal of a thru hike was hiking from point A to point B, start to finish, no gaps in between. And I guess for the sake of argument, technically that is a thru hike, starting from one spot, going to the other, hiking a single trail. But I'm here to tell you that yes, that could be a thru hike, but a thru hike could be a lot of things. And for me, this hit me like a ton of bricks when I had to go around the Sierra Range due to snow at the time, and it really hurt my pride. I remember specifically thinking, great, I'm not a hiker anymore. I'm not a thru hiker anymore. This sucks. I'm going around the Sierra. I'll come back later. I never ended up going back because by the time I got to Canada, I was getting married in a month and going back to work, and it just wasn't in the cards to go back to the Sierra Range. And I also realized that I had put so many of my eggs in this thru hiking basket. I wanted to be considered a thru hiker. And when I was forced to go around the Sierra Range, all of that fell apart. I would never change a single thing about that 2017 hike. It made me a better person. It stripped me of all that pride that I had wrapped up in being a thru hiker. And what I realized at the end of it was that a thru hike is a journey. That's what it is. Now, the definition is there, in my humble opinion, the definition is there to like kind of give you an outline of what a thru hike is. But at the end of the day, it's more of a personal journey and a physical journey than it is about walking every step of the way. That could be a journey, but there are a lot of them out there. And I think a lot of thru hikers that have been on long trails over months and months and months would probably agree with a portion of what I'm saying. So a thru hike is very personal, and I was wrong about it being this one thing and one thing only, because it's a lot of things. So if you're heading into a thru hike, keep an open mind and just go with the flow and have fun and enjoy yourself. And don't get so wrapped around the horn about having to walk every single mile of the trail, because who knows, maybe you're missing out on a really awesome experience by maybe doing something alternative on the thru hike. Okay, last but not least, I thought backpacking was about backpacking. And yeah, I guess it is about backpacking, but since I started backpacking, saying backpacking a lot, since I started my journey into backpacking, I have realized that this whole thing is actually about self-improvement. The gear is fun, the views are fun, the pictures are fun, the people are great, but when I finished my hike in 2017 of the PCT, I came home, got married, went back to work, and my wife and I got pregnant with my oldest little girl. And I realized I had all of these nuggets of life skills that had been refined on the trail, like pushing through mental barriers, physical barriers, grinding it out. The list goes on and on. In fact, the list is so long that I've written a draft copy of a book detailing all of the life lessons that I learned on the PCT so that I could pass that along to my daughters. What I learned in backpacking directly translates to life back home. I push myself mentally and physically. I have to organize myself. I have to plan. I have to prepare all of these things. I have to get over all of these personal barriers just to go and have an experience in the backcountry. And backpacking has actually made me a better person. It's also connected me with some really amazing people. If it wasn't for backpacking, I wouldn't have this channel. I wouldn't have the podcast. I wouldn't have the website. I wouldn't have had my time on the PCT. And that's really, really important to me. So while backpacking is about going and spending a night in the wilderness with all of your things on your back, that is backpacking, but it's so much more than that. Wherever you're at in your journey, I would love to know where you are and if backpacking has actually morphed into something else, because I'm at the point now where when I look at a backpacking trip that I want to do, I think about, I wonder what skills I'm going to learn on this trip that I can translate back to life. I would love to know if you guys are in the same boat or not. And if you're early on in your journey, maybe you're not there yet, but I think those that have been around for a while I think they can relate, and I would love to know what your thoughts are. So that's it. That's all the ways I was wrong about backpacking. I love it. I love it so much. It makes me so happy to help other people get into it. And that's why I wrote that Learn How to Backpack course. So there are links in the description for that, along with the website and the podcast. That beginner backpacker course has over 60 video tutorials detailing everything you need to know about to get up and going with your style of backpacking. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video. If you're headed out on an adventure anytime soon, be safe, make great decisions, and we'll see you next time.